The answer choices here make it very clear we need to talk about punctuation, and we've got some slightly interesting punctuation marks here, a colon and a dash, so we'll talk about those as they come up, but let's just see where we've got what we've got to start. So this is one long sentence, so I'm going to need to read the whole thing. The 47 geothermal springs of Arkansas's Hot Springs National Park are sourced via a process known as natural groundwater recharge, in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth. In this case, the porous rocks of the hills around hot springs to collect in a subterranean basin. Ooh, this is a nasty sentence. Okay, so let me break it down for you. Ooh, here we go. First things first, the first part, very straightforward. Here's our sentence. The 47 geothermal springs of the national park are sourced via a process known as natural groundwater recharge. Sentence, I could end a period right there. Then we get into an extra clause, in which is kind of the giveaway. We also have a comma that's telling us we're attaching something, so we're shifting somewhere in the sentence. So in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth. Then I have another interesting punctuation mark, and many of you are going to just pick C because of that, and that's kind of okay. It's not always the case that we have two dashes, but it's very common, especially when we're doing this kind of like mid-sentence thing. So let's try to understand why the double dash is right in this case. We have the first dash, which is telling us that we're interrupting the interruption, right? So we had this extra clause that we're attaching at the end, and it is describing to us what groundwater recharge is. Or natural groundwater recharge. So it's like a definition that we're adding on, and the comma lets us do this. This is not a sentence that can stand on its own. It's just an extra little bit. But you can interrupt extra pieces. That's okay too. And so the first dash is telling us we're getting more. In this case, the porous rocks of the hills around hot springs. So what's happening here is they're now providing more information about where the rainwater percolates in this particular case, right, in the hot springs. But we haven't really finished the original thought, the pink thought. So we kind of end up going back to it. To collect in a subterranean basin. So the reason this is such a nasty sentence is it's so hard to follow, and very few of us would actually write a sentence like this because it requires our brain to kind of like jump around from different things. So when you have these moments and you're trying to figure out how the sentence is put together, try to, if you think something is extra, try to remove it and see how it sounds. So in this case, I would remove the yellow and just be like, would this make sense without the yellow? The 47 geothermal springs of Arkansas's Hot Springs National Park are sourced via a process known as natural groundwater recharge, in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth to collect in a subterranean basin. Yes, the pink is continuing this definition of what natural groundwater recharge is. It's weird that we would insert this other factoid in the middle of that definition, right? That's bad writing in my opinion. If I were writing this, I would take that yellow piece and I would put it as a second sentence after the pink is over. Don't interrupt your thought, right? Like that's bad writing, but it is grammatically correct writing. And so that's not really kind of what our task here is, not to write the best version of the sentence. It's to make sure the version that we're given is grammatically correct. So what the double dash here is doing is it's separating out a piece of information and it's letting us interrupt something. So the first dash tells us where the interruption starts and the second dash tells us where the interruption ends. We can also use parentheses or commas to do that same thing, but in this case I wouldn't use a comma because there's a comma in the interruption. So if I had 3 commas here, it'd be like already kind of crazy just knowing where things begin and end. And so the dash is a way of kind of doing the same thing, but in a way that's visually distinctive. So at least in theory, you can see where the sentence breaks apart. But as I said, I don't think this is a good sentence. I think it's way too confusing. And you probably felt that as you were reading it, that you were having trouble feeling where it goes. But try different things, use the different punctuation marks, and there's really no reason to even talk about these other ones here. It really does have to be C.